An error occurred on Periscope. This usually is temporary. What are you talking about? Go live.
It's live right now. I see it.
Live right now, isn't it? Yo, what's up, everyone? It's not going live on Periscope, so oh well. I don't know what to say about that. This is our first All49ers roundtable of the offseason. I'm Grant Cohn. That's Jack Hammer, Maverick, Pallack, Nick Newman, and Jose Sanches making his first appearance in over a month. Jose, great to see you. How you been?
Doing all right, man. Surviving like all of us during these wild times.
Trying times. All right.
Trying times of quarterback debate.
Yeah. It gets really, really contentious. I don't know if you can be friends with someone who has a different opinion about the quarterbacks than you. That's the deal breaker right there. So
not possible.
Right into it. I mean, you think politics will end friendship. What about your opinions on quarterbacks? So the news today is that Deshaun Watson might request a trade. Not that he has. Mike Florio says he thinks he might. So let's say he does. Should the Niners do whatever it takes to trade for this guy? Jose, you start.
You have to definitely consider it. Although Mike Florio is saying something, I always take it with a grain of salt, whatever he says. But it's to say like Texans like, all right, guys, it's open market. Deshaun Watson's open. You're the 49ers. You have to consider it. But like I said in my article, I don't think they're even going to attempt to do it because we already know like how much this ego fuels Kyle Shanahan. He's the one that essentially makes the calls. And can you just imagine the backlash, how he's going to think, how he's going to feel? You had him at number 3, and so now you're going to trade the farm, the future for him. It's just mind-boggling. You already know how he cares about his image. They try to force feed all these players with his play calling, his personnel decisions. I just don't think he's going to simmer. It's an improvement. Sure, swing for the fences. I don't care how much it's going to take for the future because you get your elite quarterback. It does a lot to mask it. And personally, I think he would even be willing to stipend off some of his contract because he wants to win. And being in a good situation with a good play caller like Shanahan he's never had before, it's something I think you would consider. So I just don't think Shanahan's going to have the goal to be like, hey, let's just trade after him. Even though we just had him, would be openly saying, hey, we messed up. We shouldn't have drafted Thomas. We messed up that whole first round of 2017, a good portion of it, for a matter of fact. So I just don't think I see him. Just having the stones, having to put his pride aside and just making that call.
I hear you. Nick, what do you think? Should they do it? This is your topic, by the way. You were like 2 months early on this.
Yep.
Texas fans were like, he hasn't requested a thing, and you're like, wait for it.
They were all. So here's the backstory behind it. Sterling Bennett, he works behind the scenes at 95.7 The Game, runs the 49ers All Access Pod. Had me on his podcast, I want to say late November, and he asked me, should the 49ers trade for Deshaun Watson? And I said, you trade a minimum of 3 first-round picks for quarterback talent like Deshaun Watson. I don't care if the 49ers had an opportunity to draft him in 2017. This is your opportunity to make things right. Will Kyle Shanahan trade for Deshaun Watson? Who knows? But should they? Should he? Absolutely. Absolutely. If you look at what you'd have to give up to jump from 12 to 2, it's probably around the same draft capital as what you'd have to give up to draft Deshaun Watson. Why I'd prefer Deshaun Watson? He's a proven franchise quarterback. If you draft a rookie quarterback, you have him on a rookie deal, you have the cap flexibility to add weapons. But if you have a guy like Deshaun Watson, he makes your weapons better. He's your quarterback for the next 10 years. So, yes, I'm trading 3 first-round picks for Deshaun Watson, probably even more than that. You don't have to worry about the quarterback position for a decade. And it's time. If the issue is Kyle Shanahan not being able to swallow his pride, there's something wrong with that. And that's something that needs to be acknowledged. So absolutely, I go all out for Deshaun Watson. 25 years old. Come on.
I think Watson for 3 first-round picks is definitely worth it. I think he's a top 6 quarterback in the NFL, especially when he gets fully away from the Bill O'Brien system and gets a better GM because he has one now. He has an actual GM for his team. But I don't see the 49ers being able to get him for just 3 first-round picks. I think it would be 4 and 6 elite picks, meaning 4 first-round picks and 2 second-round picks, 3 first-round picks and 3 second-round picks, something like that. You don't just trade a franchise quarterback. What head coach would want to go there and start over unless you're a guy that gets a long leash? Like if you're Eric Bieniemy and you're guaranteed 6 years like Kyle was when he first came, then yeah, I could see maybe a trade happening. But if you're a guy that has to win within 3 years because you have that franchise guy, why would you give that up? Because you're just hoping one of those picks ends up being half of Deshaun Watson.
It's true.
That is true.
I think we're all in agreement that getting Deshaun Watson's a great thing as far as his talent and what he brings to the team. The issue really is what you're giving up in order to get him. And if it's a deal similar to, it sounds like it's a deal where it's going to be like, kind of like what Dallas did back with Herschel Walker years ago, where it's going to be a boatload of picks. And if you have to do that kind of thing, the 49ers aren't in a position where if they give up a ton of draft capital, that they're going to be ready they'll be able to contend. I don't think, in the next year or two. They don't have enough depth, enough top level players around that, especially on the defensive side with what they're going into this year. I just don't see it being something that would be in their best interest.
Yeah, it's just a shame that they didn't draft him when they had the chance. They could have had him. They could have had Mahomes. It would have been perfect. And they really are great. I understand why Niner fans would say, yeah, whatever it takes, get him, because it's hard to get that guy. But to me, what is the Mech saying? I can think of 3 first-rounders on the team I'd trade for Watson in a second with this team's one-round track record. Go for it. I understand why Niner fans feel gung-ho about this. But I'm with Jack. I would be very, very careful. To me, that's kind of like a basketball way of thinking. Like, you got to get the superstar. It doesn't matter. Get them at all costs. Football's different. You're not one of 5. You're one of 25 starters. And if you have to can anyone think of a Herschel Walker trade that worked out for the team getting 1 player?
The only thing I could think of in the last couple of years is Khalil Mack for the 2 first-round picks. But even
2.
that,
We're talking about the Raiders, though.
2. I'm talking about 2, not 6. Or not 3 plus.
And he wasn't under contract before that trade, correct? He signed it after he was traded, so it's different.
So it's enticing, but I don't see any historical precedent that would lead me to believe that it's the right way to go. I know you want Deshaun Watson, but it depletes you. I don't think you can put the team around him.
To counter what you and Jack are saying about the one player, the NBA method of going for a superstar, this is the quarterback position, the most important position in sports.
You're right.
You look at Russell Wilson, you look at the Seahawks roster around him, you're like, how is this team even competitive? There's nobody really around him. Today they have Jamal Adams, you have DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, but over the last several years, there's been no one around Russell Wilson, and Deshaun Watson has that ceiling where he makes you a contender each and every year. You don't need to have a bunch of Nick Bosa's and all these other studs all over the field if you have a player with that high of a ceiling that's going to keep you competitive year in and year out. That's why I give up 4 first-round picks. I'll go 4 first-round picks for a guy like that.
But Nick, he went 4-12 this year.
I'm on Grant and Jack's side. That's why I mentioned I'm hesitant. I see Nick's point. I definitely see his point. Elite quarterback does mask a lot of deficiencies, but
He's elite. He is elite.
I feel like if you do this, if you do that 3 or 4 plus round picks and whatever extra you're going to throw in there, you're going to pretty much have the Houston Texans in 2 years as a 49ers.
That's what I'm saying. Exactly.
That's why I think that's why I say hey, I'm hesitant. But also I don't mind swinging the fences, but I say I'm hesitant to that. I just say just be really careful. That's why I mentioned some articles. So
it's an intriguing topic.
It's intriguing, and I don't think I would necessarily kill the trade. I would just kill them for saying you guys had him at that point and you just let him walk, and now you want to get him. So. Yeah.
I'll put it this way. They need to have a very long meeting and talk this through. They really need to spend an entire day talking this through, because it's the most important decision maybe of the offseason, especially if he actually requests a trade and pulls a Zach Wilson and says, I kind of like the Niners. Are you prepared? What are you going to do? What's your plan? I don't know.
And he's not that expensive from a salary perspective either. He's actually it's about I think about $10 million this year or 15, somewhere in that ballpark. So it's a good savings 15. On the cap. So, but
that's 1 year. Then after that's I think 2022 would be all right, we're the Houston Texans.
It's 40.4 in 2022.
Yeah. I just think draft picks are precious, but some people think they're overrated. They got to make that decision. If they get Deshaun Watson, I guess I would tip my cap. That would be that would be a blockbuster. I don't think they're going to pull it off, but
he's not going to get traded. Come on.
On that, if it's with Watson's that important to their winning, how many pieces are the Texans away from competing next year if they get the right coach? They didn't interview Eric Bieniemy. I don't know why, but if they get the right head coach, get a receiver. There's a lot of good receivers on free agency. If they fix their defense, it's not like they're that far away. 2 years from now, they could be maybe not Chiefs level contender, but a decent contender.
And Nick, we kind of all ganged up on you in this one, but you did a great job making that. You did a great job making the argument, and I'm not saying you're wrong. We're just being conservative and basically lame. So I appreciate
What do you mean? I said I see his points. I said he makes sense. I'm
talking for myself. I'm speaking for myself.
Yeah.
It'd be great if they got him. I just don't think the Texans would do it.
Yeah, I think they're going to hold on and drag their feet. Why would you? It's just not okay, anyway. Let's talk about yesterday's news. Zach Wilson was on some television show and they gave him a question like, where would you like to play? What offense would you fit? And he says, gee, I don't know. The 49ers and the Panthers, but any team would be great. But the 49ers and the Panthers are really, really great. I like Kyle Shanahan. I like Joe Brady. Seems like a smart kid who knows exactly what he's doing. Seems like he might be a little nervous about being picked by the Jets. I would be too. I mean, dang. Look at Sam Darnold. So my question is basically saying, hey, Niners, please, come and get me. Should the Niners trade up from 12 to 3 and make it happen? Jack, you start.
12-3 is going to be a tough one because that's just a lot to give up for Zach Wilson. It's
almost a Watson trade package to move up that far.
It's going to be pretty similar to it. I think if I'm the 49ers, I'm looking to see who I can get around 7 and do and something like what the Bills did when they did the Josh Allen deal, where it was just a swap of first and then a second round in both years. That's not very much, and that would be something that's doable. And that's really the big, what I would do. If you look at what the Bills have done over the course of the last 4 years, they've killed it at the top of the draft. And that's really where the Niners have struggled and why the Niners are in the position where they are right now. So that's the direction I would.
So instead of trading into the top 5, which is extremely expensive, trade into the top 7, more doable.
Yeah, they should be able to get somebody there.
I like that. Matt.
I just think it will be hard to even trade into the top 7 because there's so many teams in that range that would want that quarterback. The Lions, who knows what they want, Carolina in that situation, Atlanta in the top 4, Miami even. And then there's teams that can trade up also in front of the Niners. Yeah, Minnesota, New England, Washington, Chicago, Indianapolis, all those teams need to find a rookie quarterback, I think, at some point. So I just think it'll be really hard. I think Zach Wilson and Justin Fields go top 5. So I think they'd have to get there, and I don't think that happens.
Yeah. I have a neutral stance on this one. If Kyle Shanahan feels like there's a quarterback he loves that's going to be his quarterback for the next 10 years, I personally support the decision to move up with whatever you need to move up to secure a quarterback that you feel like is going to be the face of your franchise, for the next decade.
You hungry?
The reason why I'd prefer Watson is because it completely eliminates the risk. If you move up for a quarterback in the draft, there's always the possibility that player is going to be a bust, and that's concerning. So that's what you have to really consider when thinking about moving up in the draft, which is why I'm so gung-ho about Watson, because he's the safest bet, and he's the most attractive quarterback who could potentially become available. So moving up, you'd have to move up to the top 5 for Zach Wilson. Right. That's going to cost you a lot. I'm for it if Kyle Shanahan feels that that's his guy. But you have to know that there's a decent chance he can become a bust, and then you lose all that draft capital you gave up to move up.
I mean, you're hoping and praying that he becomes Deshaun Watson. That's the best case scenario. And there's a whole lot of scenarios where he doesn't come anything close to that. Jose.
Once again, it's another point where they're gonna have to be very careful. I feel like the way that they have a chance that they should even consider even go in on trading him is if somehow, some way, which is possible, one team in the top 5, top 8, top 10, whatever, does a random draft pick, because there's always that one team that in the top 5 or top 10 drafts someone, and it's like, whoa, this changes the whole outlook of who's gonna fall, what's gonna go where. It didn't really happen so much last year. That wasn't for the first time in years. I think there wasn't a trade in the top 10 in the draft, which was kind of boring. I usually like the trades, but I don't think you got to trade. I don't think you're gonna go all in, because perfectly said by one of you guys, it's just another Deshaun Watson scenario. And at that point, it's like, all right, it kind of feels like you should just do Deshaun Watson, because at least that's known. And at this point, I like comparing to the unknown draft pick to that episode from Family Guy, where it's like a boat's a boat, but the mystery box is a mystery. It's like, all right, great. Like the mystery, would you rather take the variable or take the constant? I mean, come on. It's all this unknowingly stuff is not fun to trade the future for a team that's going to end up having to fill in a bunch of needs that already this year they have a bunch of needs they got to fill with the 40+ free agents. So trade it for him. It just depends if someone tips that domino in the right direction towards the favorable, but I'd say no.
I would say hell no. Hell no. I'm not that into Zach Wilson. I liked him when I watched him because his highlights are really cool. I mean, he has a lot of cool highlight plays, but when you watch him play, he holds the ball a really long time. His game is to hold the ball and hold the ball and hold the ball and scramble around and scramble around and scramble around. He's a scrambler. People talk about his arm. His defining characteristic are his feet. He's very quick. He scrambles for big plays. He extends plays. He's going to get hurt playing like that in the NFL. I don't think he's going to be a high-level passer. I think he's going to be a guy who runs around a lot, takes hits, and is going to be in and out. I mean, I hate to be It's harsh to say that about a player, but we're looking at that with, I mean, you got to be honest. Do you feel like, Jimmy Garoppolo, you have to be honest about his lack of durability. This guy, we haven't seen it, but I feel like his style of play, he can do it at BYU, but can he do it in the NFL? I don't think so. I don't.
Behind this line.
He plays like Kyler Murray without Kyler Murray's athleticism, in my opinion. So, no, absolutely not. No. Let's move on. Maybe that's harsh, but that's the way I see it.
Behind the offensive line, too, also got to factor into that.
I would sign Dak because we can backlog his contract since the cap is going up after 2021, and we can restructure Armstead's contract and save some cap. It seems to me that Dak is one of the most expensive quarterbacks in the league.
Yep.
Even with the broken leg. I don't think he's taking a discount for anyone.
Hell no.
And
after the way the Cowboys.
Let's move on. Okay, so Zach Wilson would be 3 first-round picks or something. Deshaun Watson, same. These are huge hauls. The Niners said they're going to be looking for an upgraded quarterback at every position. I think Matt Ryan qualifies. I think we can all agree that Matt Ryan is a better quarterback than Jimmy G. Matt Ryan wouldn't be as expensive in a trade as those two guys. Maybe you could get him for a first. Maybe you can get him for 2 twos. He's also almost 36. And if the Niners were to get him, he'd basically cost them about the same against the cap as Jimmy. Is it worth it to even kick the tires on Matt Ryan? Who starts this one? Jose?
Yeah, it's worth it if you are inebriated or intoxicated, if that's what you feel. That's the way you can really view it that way. Because hell no, what are you doing? No, don't touch an older. Then you just signed. Kyle Shanahan and Lynch just signed these extensions. Let's get a quarterback that can stay at least a good portion of that time, because I'm getting tired of all these little plug and play quarterbacks. And then once again, we're going to be back at the same conversation. Oh, can he develop a quarterback? He needs a guy, and it's like, oh, it's a rinse, wash, repeat. That's all we're going to be at. So no, that's not the person you want in aging one. He's still better than Garoppolo, true, but he's not like a massive upgrade. He's not going to take you over the top and tip the scales that heavily to like Super Bowl contention and stuff like that. And then, but I'm pretty sure a bunch of us like beating up the 49ers offensive line. You're going to want Matt Ryan statue behind there and getting beat up all day. I mean, shoot, he's probably going to get in a fight with Mike McGlinchey, considering Mike
That's his cousin.
Even better. You get in fights with your cousins. I get in a fight with my cousins all the time. So there you go. So no, stay away.
Okay.
Prohibited.
Fair enough. Nick, same thing? Okay.
Yeah, I'm with Jose on this one. Stay away from Matt Ryan. He's not going to be free. You're going to have to give up something to trade for him. And at that point, Matt Ryan's going to be, 36, 37 years old at the start of next season, 36. If we're looking at a quarterback that's approaching 40, I'd rather personally have Ryan Fitzpatrick and a rookie than Matt Ryan. Ryan Fitzpatrick's more mobile. He's cheaper. I'd rather have him come in for a year, no picks. Okay. Maybe the Dolphins re-sign him, but if you're going after a Ryan Fitzpatrick, you're not going to have to give up as much as Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan, he's a much better passer than Jimmy Garoppolo, but I'd prefer to keep Garoppolo just for the sake of him being younger than having to give up draft capital for Ryan.
And you get the beard swagger. Don't forget about the beard swagger.
Giving up draft capital for Ryan is hard to swallow. I agree. What do you think, Mav?
I'm just concerned about his sack numbers. I think he takes a lot of sacks. The one game I watched the most of Ryan this year was against the Saints, and I think he got sacked like 6 or 7 times.
Yep.
And that's big with this offensive line. I think us on All49ers SI are on the side of the right side of the line was not good this year. I know a lot of people think it was good in some situations. I think we all thought, at least in past situations, it wasn't great. So that concerns me with Ryan. But once again, I'm not sure how available Ryan would be. I think it's more similar to the Carson Wentz deal. It's a lot of money. It would take a lot to be able to move on from him just because they'd be hurt in the cap situation, even by trading him. I think the Falcons have a lot of dead cap if they trade him this year. And
big time. Yeah, it's true. Big time. Yeah.
Well, the one thing that you get if you go for Ryan is that you get a guy that's durable. It's going to be there. You know, he doesn't miss games, so you know who you're going to have behind there all the time. So that's the positive with him. But you know, giving up anything.
Also, he wouldn't have to learn the system. He knows it already.
Yeah, he knows the system, and you know, I would be. It's an okay move. It's not necessarily the direction that I want to go, but if they were to go in that direction, I wouldn't be angry about it because I think that would help them out in the short term, and it wouldn't be something like any of these other draft trades that we're talking about that are going to cost them a lot of picks. They should be able to get them for a couple. You know.
Yeah, I mean, he is better than Jimmy G. They say they're not going to move off Jimmy G unless they get an upgrade. He's an upgrade. He has missed 3 games in his career, even though he's a statue. He does a pretty good job he has much better instincts in the pocket than Jimmy G. He protects himself better than Jimmy G. He's just way freaking better than Jimmy G. And even though he's 36, there's a lot of examples of quarterbacks playing to 40. He wouldn't have to spend a year learning the offense. You wouldn't have to worry about, the team taking a step back with a rookie at quarterback. I mean, what are the options next year? Stick with Jimmy G, give the team to a rookie, sign Cam Newton or Ryan Fitzpatrick. Those are all kind of dicey options. At least with Matt Ryan, you feel like he plays 16 games.
Yeah.
He'd probably win 10. And only problem is if you do trade picks for him, how do you draft the quarterback who takes over for him in a couple of years? It seems like you can't. Like, you'd like to have him and the heir apparent, but you'd only have him. It'd be tough. I'm not really excited. I'm not thrilled about it, but I actually think it's one of the Niners' better options.
I think that's a good point, Grant. He has the highest floor, I guess you could say, where he's probably the safest bet, even looking at Matthew Stafford, because the advantage that Ryan has over Stafford is he is familiar with the offense. So out of all the potential options, Ryan's probably the safest bet, the least attractive by far, in my opinion. I don't want Ryan on the roster. There's definitely more enticing options.
Are the Niners going to take a step back? Are they going to take a step back? He's a rookie. He doesn't know the system. I don't know.
Yeah.
Only because Jimmy, at least he knows the system. The problem is he plays 8 games a year. That's too harsh.
Only 8 games? I thought it was 6.
It was 6. Okay, let's move on. Trent Williams. This is a very interesting piece of news. The Niners have been working so hard to create goodwill with him. They promised not to give him the franchise tag. They tried to agree to an extension with him before week 17. Couldn't do it. Guess this guy wants a lot of money, and I can't blame him. He missed a whole year's worth of game checks last year. Now they're going to have to sign him when free agency starts, which means they'll get him if they pay. So my question is, are the Niners going to pony up? Is Trent Williams coming back? What do you think, Jack?
Well, based off of what Williams said, is he said that, he wants to hit the free agent market because he wants to see what a Pro Bowl tackle is worth in free agency. Well, we know what a Pro Bowl tackle is worth in free agency. The Packers just did it with David Bakhtiari. It's about $23 million a year.
That's right.
So are they willing to give him a deal that's going to be, 3 for, 69 for 3, maybe because of his age, give him a little bit less, or, or go to that 4th year so that they can buy themselves a little bit more cap space in the short term. That's what it's going to take. And from what it sounds like, they're not there yet at that number. And that's why he didn't sign the deal before the end of week 17. What we've heard today.
Mm-hmm. I think they have to re-sign Trent Williams. He's in the driver's seat on this. There's not many free agents that I think are even close. Alejandro Villanueva is maybe the closest thing to him, but I think he has flaws, and it would pretty much cripple their draft plan. They would have to go left tackle in the first 2 rounds, and Penei Sewell's an elite talent, but he's not making out of the top 6. And then you get Wyatt Davis as a guard. Rashawn Slater's projected as a guard center. Elijah Vera Tucker is also projected as a guard. He maybe can play tackle. And then you get Christian Darrisaw, who would then have to be the first-round pick, essentially, for the Niners if they lost Trent Williams, or they would have to go 2nd round and hope Liam Eichenberg fell. It would really hurt the draft plan if they couldn't get Trent Williams back.
Yeah, losing Trent Williams at left tackle, that's just it would be a whole other hole that the 49ers need to address. That would really devastate things. Left tackles are not easy to find. The 49ers have no leverage here, and knowing how they like to manipulate contracts, they must feel uncomfortable knowing that Trent Williams has all the power in this negotiation. Do you want to move up in the draft to get a left tackle? No, you have other areas that you need to address. So they need to find a way to work things out. And I saw the news that broke today that they were entering negotiations going into the Seahawks game or whatever it was, week 16, week 17. That didn't work out. But has Williams, Jack, if you could clarify, because I personally haven't heard this, he openly said that he wants to hit the market and see what's out there, because the 49ers can re-sign him before free agency starts, right? There's that window still open. It doesn't need to be, right? But so
he said he wants to hit free agency.
Which is smart, which is the smart thing to do for him, because I'm sure he can get a lot of money. But the 49ers, if they do not bring back Trent Williams, that's going to be difficult to overcome.
I think the only thing that the 49ers have on an edge of signing Trent Williams, it's not going to be money, because I don't know. This is where the Jimmy Garoppolo debate always comes in. It's like you cut him and you get all that money to spend elsewhere. But I'll say this: I think the edge they have with re-signing him is just the comfortability, just because if they showed how forthcoming they are, how transparent they are with him. Where Williams was spending all those years with Washington, his final years of just nothing but disrespect, nothing but the back and forth through what he went through. So maybe that's something that I've just been saying, why they front loaded. I believe they front loaded his money. They pretty much cashed him out straight up when they first signed him or traded for him last year. So I think that's the only thing that he likes. He's like, hey, I'm comfortable here. I know they're cool here. I know they're pretty much they are in a contention seat, which is what he said. But then again, he's probably still looking for the payout. You know, all these players like, I want to go to a Super Bowl contender, and like more than half of them always take the money. So it's gonna be seeing. I think at this point you got to consider what teams are offensive tackle needy, a bunch of them. So how much of a cap space. It's gonna be hard. They're gonna have to. I feel like they have to. Their hands is forced for exactly what Maverick said. Yeah, at that point, your draft priority becomes offensive tackle, and now it looks bad that you didn't take Tristan Wirfs at that time instead of Javon Kinlaw. So I feel like now you have no choice. There isn't a question of will they resign him or should they. It's like you have to. You have no choice because now your needs just become amplified.
Yep.
Yeah.
100%.
I think they put themselves in this position. I mean, there's no backup plan at left tackle. The right tackle can't play left tackle, let alone right tackle. It seems to me that the Niners tried to be slick in their negotiations and be like, all right, let's get it done now. Let's find a deal that works for both of us. And Trent Williams works for both of us. No. You're going to pay me what I want. And if you're not going to do it today, then you'll do it in February or March or whatever. I know I have leverage here. I know you have no recourse if I walk away. You're going to pay me exactly what I want. And if you don't, someone else will. I mean, whatever. It's real simple. So I do think he'll be back. And I think the Niners will give him exactly what he wants because what are their options?
Yeah. It doesn't help that Justin School got obliterated by the Packers playing left tackle the one opportunity he had to step in. So,
and he knows that. He knows what Justin School is, what McGlinchey is. Nah, he's got all the leverage and he's going to use it and he's going to enjoy it. Whew.
Yeah.
It's simple.
And they put themselves in this situation by blowing the draft last year with going with Kinlaw instead of Wirfs. Yep. They had him right there. They had a tackle for the future that could have been a low price guy for 4 years. And instead they make that move and now they're sitting here scrambling, hoping they can overpay for it to tackle.
Had they known that Justin School was no good, had they known that Contavious Street, Kevin Givens, all these defensive tackles are pretty good, they could have actually addressed the weakness, not the strength. You gonna say something, Jose?
Oh yeah, I was gonna say. Hey man, now you're throwing.
It's mirrorized. It's hard,
dude. If you were a crossing guard, you'd be the worst crossing guard ever.
So bad at it.
People crush right now, dude. You'd be right there. You're lucky the social distancing out there. Now you made me forget what I was gonna say. All I was gonna say is, no, I remember. It's simple. Justin School can replace Trent Williams. Just don't play him against the Packers. Just don't play him against the Packers.
Simple.
Right? That's simple. It's simple, right?
Simple.
That's right guard Justin School, right?
Yeah, wasn't bad. Was better than McKivitz, or not worse. One free agent the 49ers must let walk this offseason.
Man. One free agent must let walk. Obviously, Richard Sherman. Jaquan Tart.
I like that. Just one. Don't take all the good answers.
Okay, wait. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna take all your guys' answers. Nah, it's Richard Sherman. It's off top, Richard Sherman. I mean, I know when he came out and said, "Oh yeah, it's gone for sure." I know the salary cap. I was like, I know the salary cap too, but you're old, man. Come on. Yeah. And then I remember I was like, oh, I low key ate my words to thinking, oh wow, look at him against the Rams. And look at how great he is. This is what they were missing, and then 5 games later, it's like, all right, yeah, I was right in my initial assessment. I was just against Jared Goff. It was just a one-off. This guy is like not a top 10 corner anymore. He's declining. He's injury prone. And he's just slow, man. I can blow past him. Come on. What's going on here? Just get him out of here. I mean, I know he's a smart, intelligent player, and I'm pretty sure he'd make a decent safety, but he's probably going to – matter of fact, I don't even think he's going to go with Robert Saleh. I think Saleh fell in love with how he was able to work with the man coverage this season. So, Sherman, I'm just going to be interesting where he goes, but no, stay away from Richard Sherman. Thank God you don't have to allocate any more money to old injury-prone players.
Yeah, Sal's going to be like, hey, Sherman, thanks for campaigning for me to be a head coach, but see ya.
See ya. I like Verrett. Give me a Verrett.
No. Nick. So this is a little bit of a spoiler. I have an article coming out later today regarding this matter. The 49ers need to let DJ Jones walk. Jones, I don't know if you guys saw his tweet. He tweeted this out on January 5th. I quote unquote, know your worth. DJ Jones tweeted that out, and then he deleted it. But luckily before it was deleted, people were able to capture it. So there's screenshots of it.
Probably gave him an offer.
They probably had the X interview and they were like, DJ, here's what we're prepared to offer you. And he was like, That's what I was hoping.
I wouldn't. Regardless of what DJ Jones feels his worth is, I would not give it to him. You have Kevin Givens, you have Contavious Street, you have Darian Daniels, who played in 4 of the final 6 games. Eric Armstead can play inside. Javon Kinlaw. Yeah. So there's no reason to bring back DJ Jones, and he probably could get a decent amount of money for an interior defensive lineman on the open market. He can argue that he was a starter on the 2019 defense up until he got hurt. So there's a lot going for him. So I think he should move on. It makes too much sense for both sides. They just both need to go on. It's in their best interest both ways to move on.
He's never played a full 16-game season ever.
He's a top candidate. I think that might go with Saleh too, because Saleh loves to rave about him.
Yeah, smart kid. Matt,
I'm going the running back combo. If I could pick one, Tevin Coleman and McKinnon. I just think,
you can pick either. It doesn't matter. They all work the same.
From your guys here, right? Okay.
Yeah, either one, because I think Mostert and Jeff Wilson Jr. have to be the top 2 guys. I think they need to get 2 new guys to be those 3 and 4, whether that be Hasty and Austin Walter or a rookie or another free agent that's cheap. I think they got to reinvigorate the back end of that running back room after Mostert and Wilson.
Yeah, some good ones. I'm going to go with Jaquaski Tart. I mean, the guy, he's a really good safety, but he misses half the games on a regular basis. So, that's the one that has to go.
Yep. Yeah, it's good. He missed 9 games this year.
Yeah, well, I think he's played 36 games in the last 4 years. And
you got to pay him like $8 million a year.
Yeah.
So basically, you're paying him $16 million a year.
Stop giving money to these
7 games.
Players, man.
I'm going to say Kendrick Bourne. It's not the one free agent they must let walk. You guys got the big names, but he's a solid player. It's just a luxury the Niners can't afford. He's a number 3 receiver. The Niners are a run-first team. He plays because the starters are kind of in and out with injuries. He's reliable in that sense, but they can't afford him. I mean, there's got to be 4 or 5 other guys they got to re-sign before him. He needs to go spread his wings somewhere else and be a starter for like Cincinnati or something like that. Yeah. So Kendrick Bourne.
He almost had a 700-yard season on a run-first offense where he was,
backup quarterback. With a backup quarterback.
No,
yeah,
I know
against him. Yeah,
I'm saying that to your argument that he probably in a pass-first offense he could put up numbers. I think so he might be able to get it.
So go get that money. Contract. Go get those targets. You could probably got to go somewhere else to get it though.
Who's the one free agent I think the 49ers are going to let walk is Kyle Juszczyk.
I know.
I think he's gone.
To me, like they had him playing tight end all year anyway. I don't know. Jack, what did you see?
No, I agree. What I was gonna say is that the new Kendrick Bourne is going to be River Craycraft.
Oh God! Shut up! Please don't put that in the atmosphere.
No, the reason I say that is he's an undrafted free agent that Shanahan really seems to like because he's really kind of been forcing him in there. He had him in there making some big plays even in the last game, and he would have been open for a big play late in the game, except for quarterback got hit. So that's the guy that I think they're looking at to be that Kendrick Bourne type of a role.
You're so right. And the other thing is he's on the team because Kyle Shanahan can't stand Dante Pettis. At some point, Kyle Shanahan was like, River freaking Craycraft is better than this bum. And so they got rid. I mean, honestly, they waived Pettis to keep Craycraft. And it seems to me that I think Craycraft finished the season with more catches. I think Shanahan's going to have to he's going to have to make sure that Craycraft has a better career than Pettis. That's on him. So, yeah, I think so. If Pettis has a catch 1 week, Craycraft's getting 2. I bet you.
And there's that image and ego that I mentioned today. Why he's not going to trade for Deshaun Watson. He can't. Yeah. He's too pro. He's like, I don't care how good he is. I'm not going to let this happen.
So, and I was looking into this. There's no franchise tag for fullbacks, right? Like that doesn't even exist because it crossed my mind.
Oh.
There's
never been one, right? Yeah.
I guess they lay out all.
It's probably would be.
They lay out all the other positions, but fullback.
I would say running back. Yeah, right.
It's running back.
And the running, you're not going to give him Kyle Juszczyk the running back franchise tag. That's way too high.
We got a quick question real quick from Michael. Does potentially losing Trent Williams make it that much easier for the 49ers to move on from Jimmy? I don't know. I'm stumped.
I think that's the opposite because if they don't, because that's part of the whole thing with getting rid of Jimmy is getting rid of his contract so they can sign Trent Williams. Exactly. I think if they can't sign Trent Williams, that plays right into what Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch were saying, where they don't need to get that money right now.
Good point.
That's why it's not a concern. if they can't sign the guys they want, it's not the concern. It's not as much of a concern for them.
Got it. You don't have to create that cap space by cutting Jimmy. All right, let's move on.
Not yet.
What?
Not yet. No, I'm just saying not yet.
Oh, yeah.
He did say that, not yet. He just said not yet. That's what Lynch said.
This is your topic, Jose.
Hey, there you go. You got it in the right direction. You didn't get the little kid hit. Good job.
Name one non-quarterback free agent the 49ers must sign this offseason. I like this topic.
The reunion. Sign Frank Gore. Frank Gore. Cost effective, healthy. I don't care if he missed that last game. He probably just said, hey, man, I've done my job. I'm just gonna post it. I don't care. He's not injury prone. Versus you have Wilson's coming off injured. I know he's more durable, but still you got to still have that little flashlight thing in your head. Mostert's injury prone. Coleman, McCann, forget about them. Hasty coming off an injury. You need Gore, not for the production, but you can be that spell, that contingency safety net for you, and also better yet, that leadership in there that they desperately need. That old head. They desperately needed an old head this year on offense. At this point, I don't know who the heck it's going to be. I know Kittle's ascending that way, but it's like, come on, it's more than just one person. You need a bunch of people. I mean, look at Fred Warner's ascension to leadership and how elevating he was for that defense, how they just echoed his tone from Saleh to him, and then for how deep it was throughout all their ranks on that defensive side of the ball. That's what they need on offense, just that old head, just prep these guys up. And didn't Mostert and Gore, they used to talk to each other entering the Super Bowl that week too, I believe. Yes. So that's something that's something Mostert's going to respect the heck out of. It's like, oh yeah, I love this. And then you can probably also still relegate Mostert back to his 10 to 15 carry type of guy. And then boom, now you're back to where you were in 2019.
Oh, that's a tough one to follow when you go with the fan favorite Frank Gore. I'm going to say Curtis Samuel. It would be an absolute luxury to bring in Curtis Samuel. But if the 49ers can't bring back Trent Williams, you're going to need to get the ball out of whoever the quarterback's hand is quickly. You're going to have to continue to throw those passes at or an extension of the running game. And you can't do that when Deebo Samuel is out of the lineup. I'm concerned that Samuel's injury, talking about Deebo Samuel, because I'm also talking about Curtis Samuel. Deebo Samuel, his injury history goes back years. He was dealing with hamstring problems all throughout college, had multiple injuries in college. I'm very concerned that this is going to be a consistent issue throughout Samuel's career. So now looking into Curtis Samuel, you have Deebo Samuel 2.0. You have an insurance policy where if Deebo Samuel gets hurt, you now have Curtis Samuel that can run those jet sweeps, can line up at running back, can receive those passes that are an extension of the running game. So it's more of a luxury, but seeing how important Deebo Samuel is to the 49ers offense, I think it would be within the team's best interest to get a second player that can do that. And yes, it'll be costly. I looked at his spot track value. It's projected to be around $10 to $11 million annually. So it's up there. But for a player that's going to get 120 touches a year, that I feel like he's capable of that, it's a no-brainer to me.
Okay, I have an offensive guy, and then I have a defensive guy, depending on who the defensive coordinator is. So offense, I want Dan Feeney from the Chargers. I think he's a guard, and I think that would help the offensive line. He's probably going to be, I'd say, one of the top guards on the free agent market. I think Joe Tooney's going to take most of the salary away, but I like Dan Feeney a lot. And then for defense, depending on if they hire Raheem Morris or Gus Bradley or whatever, I like Jaleel Adai, the Chargers safety. I think he would be a veteran, like third safety, backup safety kind of thing with Jimmy Ward. And then DeMonte Casey from the Falcons, who knows Raheem Morris' system and had an injury, so his value is a little low, and I think they can get him for the cheap, and he'd be able to compete with Ward and Tarvarius Moore as the three safeties.
Good one. The one for me would be Corey Linsley to play center from Green Bay. He knows the system. He's going to be plug and play easy first right away, be able to get in there. So that'd be the direction I'd go. They really need a center. Really, that also allows them to shift Brunskill over to guard, help him out a little bit. I think that kind of solidifies the line quite a bit. And then on defense, I agree. I'd say Michael Davis still out of San Diego. He's a long guy. He'd be a good corner. He knows the system, and he'd be a good fit, I think, on the defensive side if they could get him.
Okay. You guys have some really great under the radar signings. I'm gonna go like obvious one at quarterback. We're talking like upgrades over Jimmy G.
I thought you said non-quarterback.
Oh man!
Oh.
All right, fair. That's fair.
Damn it!
All right. Well, then let me just since I'm not prepared at all, let me just give someone. Let me say, damn. I just think the Niners have to re-sign Jason Verrett. I think that's just as important as Trent Williams. I know I fail, but I'm saying I think that Jason Verrett signing, and it's maybe unlikely. They may not be able to re-sign both of them, but if they lose Jason Verrett, that's the best cornerback they've had in 25 years. I don't know that it's easy to replace that guy. They got to find a way to replace it to bring him back. Jason, that's what I'm saying.
Horatio in the comment section, he's got a good one with Aldon Smith.
It is a good one.
You know,
the thing with Aldon is it seems like he's playing more as like an inside rusher these days than as the edge guy the Niners need. But I actually haven't watched a ton of Dallas. Maybe they're playing him both. I just remember from the game against the Niners, his pressure came against the guard.
Yes, I've seen him on edge a good amount early on the season. They could always just kick him back out. It's not like he's lost it, or not at least it's not like him back. Oh, all of a sudden he went inside. He's not going to know what to do outside. But
great story.
Who do you think will be more expensive, Hyder or Aldon Smith?
Hyder.
Yeah.
Hyder.
Yeah, I mean that's what I think too. I was just wondering.
Yeah, no, good question. Good question.
Jump it off, beat him up.
No, I mean.
It's a good question. All right, let's talk about Shanahan.
Real quick though, the last thing though, on the other part with the Smith and why it would make sense is that he wouldn't have to jump inside. He could just play on the edge because that's what they want to do with Armstead anyway. They want to if they bring him in the nickel and dime, if he can play on the outside, and that does exactly what they're looking to do. And if they can get him for cheap, that's kind of where they go. That's kind of why the guys I went with, I was thinking were more on the lower end of free agents.
Yep,
Aldon Smith's a great idea, actually.
Yeah,
kind of reminds me a little bit of what Bill Walsh did in 81? Who was the free agent pass rusher he brought in?
Was it Fred
Dean?
Fred Dean.
Yeah, it can work to bring in a guy who's about 30 years old. I mean, pass rushers age better than corners.
Yeah,
it can work. Yeah. You bring him off the bench like you did with D Ford. Why not? I mean, Elvis Duval was a little old, but Aldon Smith's younger. Probably 29.
Would you rather have Kerry Hyder for like $7 million a year or Aldon Smith for $4 or $5 million a year?
I don't think you can pay Kerry Hyder, man.
Aldon Smith.
I
don't think Hyder's going to get 7. He's going to be higher than that just based off of his production this year.
Yeah,
really?
He's going to milk it, and someone's going to fall for it.
Yeah.
Look what Eric Armstead parlayed 10 sacks into. This guy's got 8.5. I'm just saying. Anyway, all right, let's talk about Kyle. What is his biggest strength as a head coach? Not as a coordinator. Don't say play designs because he's one hell of a coordinator. As a head coach, what is his biggest strength? And if you're stumped, I can start the discussion.
No,
I know what it is.
His biggest strength is his ability to get the team to play and get his team to play hard. Because no matter what the situation, they play hard.
They do.
So that's when I watch him. That's one thing that I gotta give him credit for is he gets his guys up to go.
I mean, even if he's got backups, he beat the Cardinals. It's true. Good call.
I'd say that is definitely one of his best traits. And I think also finding good staff members. I think he found Robert Saleh, and a lot of people wanted Robert Saleh fired before last season, and he stuck with him because he saw something in him, and it paid off. And we see for a reason why teams want to poach their offensive assistants and why they want to poach their front office, because he's gathered a really good staff, and I think he can still do that this next year as well.
Yeah, I'm right there with Jack. His ego is almost like a blessing and a curse, where his pride is tied into that ego, and he really puts his best foot forward and is able to get his team to put their best foot forward regardless of the circumstances. And that's something you appreciate, especially when looking at Doug Peterson and the stunt that he pulled Sunday night, and looking at Adam Gase. Kyle Shanahan, he gives 110% effort, and you know that he's completely dedicated to coaching. So that's what his best strength is.
Damn, all you guys took some really great answers. I think I would have to say, kind of tying in what Jack said, talking to his team in terms of like culture building in a way and how transparent he is, because that's something that I took away, especially from last year in 2019, that all these guys just resonate, just talk about like, just Kyle's message, how he's just straightforward to us, how there's no like, it's kind of like reminds me of Robert Saleh, how he eliminates gray area, where Kyle Shanahan's like, hey, there's no in between, there's no BS. He's just, it's like, hey, this is what it is, man. This is what we got to do. All right. Are you in or you out? If not, get the hell out. So that's something I appreciate. I think that's something that maybe because of his younger side, and that's something I think I can also relate to these players. And then also sometimes having a little bit of swagger like the Yeezys on when Emmanuel Sanders came through. He's like, my coach is wearing Yeezys this day. And so that's something that hypes them all up a little bit. So just the way how he just not gets down on them, how he levels with the players and just straight up with them. Yeah, how he just
honesty,
he just bros down with them.
Yeah, they can respect his. Yeah, I see that. I'm going to go with Maverick's answer. That's what I was thinking. I mean, I think his ability to spot coaching talent is pretty remarkable. I mean, who the hell was Robert Saleh? He was on no one's radar.
Yep.
Shanahan worked with him and was like, no, that guy's brilliant. And he's right. I think Shanahan is a very good. Now, I don't like his quarterback coach. I'm not really impressed with his offensive line coach, but he really does have a bunch of very good position coaches on his team. And the common thread with a lot of them is they were no one before Kyle Shanahan said, you have talent. You're good. So I would have to say that he really does a good job, not just spotting young talent at coaching talent, but also nurturing it and developing it. He's really good at it. Okay, Let's move on.
That's why I'm not too worried either.
Yeah, right. I mean, if the guy who identified Robert Saleh should be able to identify the next one, right?
Yeah, and Michael Ford going or all of them going, like it's not too much of a concern, because he should be able to fill in it adequately.
Definitely. All right, now let's do the other side. What is Kyle Shanahan's biggest weakness as a head coach?
I think I'm going first. I can take the obvious one. His ego. His ego. Come on, man. We've seen it in his play calling. We've seen it in his personnel decision. His personnel decision is the one that kills it the most, I feel. It's always head scratch like, what's going on here, man? Why'd you do that? Why are you playing this guy? Why is he starting? What's going on here? It just never fails because he just wants to make himself look good, man. It's no matter. He's a great adaptable coach, but when his ego gets tapped into, his ego is not as terrible as about half of these coaches in the league, but it does play to a degree where it caps his team and his offense. And it's just such a even the defense to a certain extent. Like I'll never stop thinking about like, wow, he really decided saying, hey, Brian Allen, get the start instead of Ahkello Witherspoon because Witherspoon's in my doghouse. Like, can you believe that? I mean, it's just so despicable. Why?
Yeah.
It's just his ego, pride, so much, all of that. If he can just taper that down, which he's not, of course he's not, then somehow this team ceiling gets higher and he can even tap out, and then it just gets better and better as the years go on for him.
To kind of switch up the answers a little bit, this isn't the biggest weakness, but just to raise awareness towards Deebo Samuel's injury against the Patriots. He plays his starters deep into blowouts. There was a handful of blowouts this year against the Jets, against the Giants, against the Patriots. And if you go back and look at those games, and even on the other side of the equation, when they're getting blown out by 20-plus points, he has his starters in the game deep in the fourth quarter. And
even last season too, Nick.
Last season too. So his awareness when the team is up and when to pull the starters and insert the backups to eliminate risk needs to improve. Because this team, the hope is that they're going to continue to be championship contenders in the coming seasons, the upcoming seasons. And if he doesn't improve on pulling the starters, there's just more risk there. And this team already has battled the injury bug enough. And eliminating risk is something Kyle Shanahan needs to do. And a way to do that is pulling your starters when the game is out of reach in the fourth quarter.
Decision making. Love it.
Decision making.
Maverick.
Yeah, I'd go a little bit on that. I think he's one of the smartest coaches, definitely smartest offensive minds, one of the smartest head coaches in the NFL. But I think sometimes he's too smart in a way where he knows he's going to be right, and sometimes his decision isn't always the right one. I would like a coach in there that you've been saying this for 2 years now, Grant, that is kind of the anti-Shanahan that pulls him back a little, because I think sometimes he's so smart that it goes overboard. And I think if he went simple a couple more times, he'd be better. But I still think one of the best minds in the NFL. And I think with more experience, he'll learn from those mistakes and be better in the coming years.
Real quick, Jack, it was interesting. The other day, Robert Saleh called him one of the greatest offensive coordinators of all time, which is it's praise, but it's also, he called him an offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Jack.
Yeah, I'm going to say that his vision is one of his greatest weaknesses. And what I mean by that is his ability to spot talent and get it onto the field. We've seen that over time and time again since he got here. And that's the direction that I would say I think is his biggest issue.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I set it up with he really spots coaching talent well. He can see, this guy's going to be a great defensive coordinator, even though he's been a linebacker coach for 3 years. He's great at that. He's not so great with the players. He has preconceived notions of these players. This guy's a good right tackle because I drafted him with the 9th pick. And it takes him like 3 years to finally see the truth. He still thinks Mike McGlinchey's good. It might take him another year and a half to come to the realization that he's got a lemon at right tackle. It took him 2 years to figure out that Jeff Wilson Jr. is better than Tevin Coleman. I mean, he could spot Robert Saleh from a mile away, but he can't look at his own players and figure out who should start at running back? Come on, Kyle. To me, that's, again, another marker of a coordinator. He's stuck on who he likes, who he thinks should work. work, and a head coach says, Kyle, just open your eyes, man. Come on. I know you like this guy. I know you believe in this guy, but the guy who's proving it every day in practice, that's to me one of his biggest things is personnel decisions, dude. Mm-hmm. Personnel.
Yeah, you look at this year and you keep seeing on Twitter and different places how the 49ers would have been in the playoffs if they just had a good quarterback. Well, that's on Kyle. That's on Kyle and John Lynch. They didn't make any moves in the quarterback room since they brought Garoppolo in. They just kept rolling with the same guys. And so, if you think that if you're going to blame the quarterbacks, you're at the same time you're blaming Shanahan and Lynch for the guys that they put in there.
Jose.
And I bet you, and that's why I think this year is the real, or even last year when they flirted with Brady, and that's why I think this year is the most controversial. Jimmy could actually get moved, and why Kyle's not saying, "Hey, he will be and is our starting quarterback." It's because he didn't pick him. Otherwise, if he did pick him, I bet you he'd be more steadfast and stubborn, saying, "Hey, Jimmy's going to be our quarterback in 2021 for sure. Stop asking me." He'd be more adamant about it. Versus that was Lynch's pick. And he's already admitted saying Lynch surprised me with the trade. We just rolled with it. And he had to feel compelled and forced. Damn it, we got this guy. We have to kind of roll with him a little bit just to do it, see what we can do. Let's just roll the dice. And then 2019 happened. But now that it's not panning out, the money's not working out for him for his availability, and he's limited. It's all right, it's done. I can't. He's moving off. If he moves off Garoppolo now, that's a good time. That's where he realizes it because it's not his guy.
Let me tell you what I'm talking about. This guy, Kyle Shanahan, kept C.J. Beathard over D.J. Reed.
Yeah.
D.J. Reed is a good player. He's starting for your division rival, and he's starting there because you wanted to keep C.J. Beathard. That's Kyle Shanahan in a nutshell. That's Kyle. And until he stops doing stuff like that, I wouldn't even call him a bad head coach. He's not a head coach. He is a top-level coordinator who is not a head coach. And I'm scared for what this team is going to go through when they lose Saleh, because Saleh has all the qualities of a head coach. Remember, coordinators and head coaches' job have no overlap. You don't judge it hey, Saleh's defense is good, so he's going to be a good head coach. No, it's much more about how you interact with people and stuff like that. And I think he has it. I don't know about Kyle. I'm not writing him off, but dude, you got to show it now, dude. Now.
What would you say? Do you think he started maybe evolving a little bit when he realized, hey, we got Greenlaw, let's trade Cohn? What do you think that was the result of? Because that kind of felt a little bit okay, some growth, or maybe just because it was just that glaring obvious. It might have been just because it was that glaring obvious.
Well, I mean, he's from this whole Seahawks philosophy where you rush forward and drop 7 in his own coverage. That's what you do. And this year he couldn't do that because he lost his pass rush. He evolved into a man coverage pressure offense. It's like he did an inverse. I mean, who does that? Yeah. It's like if Kyle Shanahan had reinvented himself as a spread zone read, or done the opposite. It's very impressive. You don't see coaches do that
in the middle of the season like that. That was nuts.
All right, final question.
I just want to touch on DJ Reed because I feel like this decision to waive him is swept under the rug pretty often. You look at next season, K'Wan Williams is a free agent. If you're going to be able to bring him back, who knows? DJ Reed was under contract for 1 more year for on his rookie deal, selected in the 5th round 2018, getting paid $700,000, $800,000. You would have saved so much money keeping him on the roster, and you would have had K'Wan Williams fallback option in place. And Jamar Taylor's coming off an ACL injury. If they can't bring back K'Wan Williams, who is arguably the best playmaker in the secondary, that's why it was such a bad decision to let go of DJ Reed.
Guys who made the team over DJ Reed: CJ Beathard, Trent Taylor, Dante Pettis,
Dante Johnson.
Who am I? I mean, come on. Stiffs made the team.
Compton.
So,
yeah, this is a good topic because you can go so many different directions. One of the other things I think you had mentioned, Grant, was did you say something about Saleh's ability with the switching in the middle of the season? Is that kind of what you said?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I'll say there, is he did a great job because what you saw was that Bills game it just put the spotlight on where they were with Richard Sherman because that totally limited everything he could do.
Yep.
And
absolutely.
The only thing I'll say there is that that's something that he should have seen coming. He should have known that. I'm talking about Saleh in this case. Because it took him until after the Dallas game to finally pull Sherman out and replace him with Witherspoon and really go to that scheme. It took him a few weeks to figure that out. And so, if we're gonna get on Shanahan about that, I think we just let's talk about both of them real quick, and it's kind of a fun
good call, Jack. I think you're absolutely right. He kept going back to Sherman, and I think they were 1-4 with Sherman in the starting lineup this year.
You forgot to keep going on with the list of players that DJ
Oh,
Reed
yeah, who
got
else?
set over. Mike McGlinchey. I just wanted to say.
Alvin Thomas. I mean, a bunch of bums made the team over DJ Reed. Trent Taylor, that guy. Okay.
Didn't they also say when they waived him, they said, "Oh, we thought we were going to be able to pick him up." Like
Jarek
God, you
McKinnon,
guys are so
Evan
naive.
Coleman. Come on. Jarek McKinnon been done. All right, final question. Who will be most successful as a head coach and why? We can't predict the future, but the why is going to be interesting. Explain your work. Kyle Shanahan or Robert Saleh. And remember, Niner fans are going to hate you if you answer this in any other way than Kyle Shanahan. So think about that. I hate you.
Am I going first here?
Yes.
I believe so.
I'm gonna go with shoot, that's really hard to say because I think Saleh is going to be a better head coach because of what he brings to the table with his the way that he gets through to his players and they kind of gravitate towards him. I see more of myself in the way that I coached in Robert Saleh, because that's kind of how I was when I was coaching. But I also coached on both sides of the ball, and I don't know if he has the ability to do that. So, but I think he's going to be really good. You're just going to have to find out who his offensive coordinator is going to be. That's what's going to hold him back.
Yeah, good point. Mav.
I'm a big Saleh guy. I'm a big supporter of him, but I think it's impossible to tell because we don't know where he's going to land, and we don't know who his front office is going to be. So, and what the situation is completely, because sometimes head coaches are in there to win in the next 3 years, and they're not really allowed to build something like Kyle was when he came to the Niners. Sometimes you have to win right away. Right. And if he does find a favorable situation, I think he'll have a lot going for him because I think he is one of those guys, like you said, that can transition from good coordinator to really good head coach because he has all those traits. If he got a good offensive guy, that would help. But I just think Shanahan has more for him because he has control over what he does at least for the rest of his Niner tenure. Is we all kind of give him credit for who he signs and who he drafts. He gets to pick his guys, where Saleh might have to have a GM that he really trusts to get those guys to help him compete more.
Yep.
I'm really going to manipulate this question here. So a little background on myself. Before I got the gig with All49ers Sports Illustrated, I ran an after-school program at the San Francisco Unified School District. I had a team of 14 that I oversaw. We had 200 kids in our program, and my managerial and my coaching style is a lot like Robert Saleh. High energy, give praise to everybody else. No credit here, just praise others. And I naturally gravitate towards people like Robert Saleh. I feel like if I was a player in the National Football League, I would love to play for Robert Saleh. He's charismatic. He can steal the attention of everybody in the room. So I prefer that coaching style.
Positive reinforcement. He doesn't yell.
Reinforcement, yes. He's just a pleasant person to be around, and I envy that about Robert Saleh. And those are some of the things that I question with Kyle Shanahan. Not that he is none of those things at all, but you can see the difference in their personalities. Who's going to be the better head coach? That's tough to say. Kyle Shanahan, like Robert Saleh said, is one of the best offensive coordinators of all time. He's great at play designing, but there's so much more that goes into being a head coach. And I think Kyle Shanahan's the best option to be head coach of the 49ers. And we'll see. I'm very interested to see how it plays out. Hopefully Robert Saleh goes to a good spot where he's able to be successful early on. And it's going to be really fun to follow over the next several years who has the better coaching career. So I'm excited to see it. It's tough to say who's it going to be. And I'm happy that the 49ers have Kyle Shanahan. And I'm happy to follow along to the career of Robert Saleh because he's a guy that you have to pull for. Who doesn't like Robert Saleh?
I love Robert Saleh. All season I've been defending this guy from idiotic fans. I just say, like, what does he do? What does he adapt? Like, stop. I'll slightly write off what Nick was saying, like how vibrant Robert Saleh is on that sideline. You get the emotions and the way how they treat the game. Robert Saleh, when the play goes good, you see how juicy he is, and his team gets so juiced. But when things go bad, you don't see him doing what Shanahan does when a failed play go like this. So that's two different things. That's two different polar opposites right there. But I'm gonna go with Kyle Shanahan, unless somehow, some way, Robert Saleh gets the Chargers job, which the Chargers ownership, Dean Spanos, is a nutcase. He's not going to be smart enough to go with him. So it's still Shanahan, because as much as he doesn't relate as well, he doesn't have that energy that gets the players hyped up like Robert Saleh does. He still is, like we just mentioned, good with personnel coaching staff. He's still a phenomenal offensive play caller, and he can still talk up his team to a degree. So at least, and then that's always going to be driving to winning football. If you're winning, then the players will shut up. If you're losing, then that's when things might still go away. But even when they were losing this year, the locker room is still intact. No one was talking about anything bad. The only thing bad was going on, or was early on, was the lack of accountability. But that's just more credited to what Grant said, was lack of leadership and no Joe Staley, no veteran presence. So I think it's still, no matter what, it's going to be Kyle Shanahan, just the way he sets up his players. And just the way he just always knows how to talk to them. I think the only place where he really also has like the flaw is like talking to like his middle or lower to the pack players. Like, Dante Pettis, one player who got all sensitive that he got yelled at, versus you have Caleb Witherspoon, who admitted like, yeah, Kyle Shanahan got down to me, but I was able to fight back. And I think that's just, unique to each player by player. So I still think I got to go with Kyle.
Well, I mean, I think you're smart betting on the offensive coach. Because the problem with defensive coaches is if they win, they lose their offensive coordinator. Look at McDermott in Buffalo. They've had 3 good years, and they're probably going to lose that offensive coordinator.
Dabble.
Look at Rule in Carolina. They didn't even have a good year, and they're going to lose their offensive coordinator. So that's the problem with hiring a defensive coach. Like, you probably have to get a new offensive coordinator.
Jason freaking Garrett is getting interviewed by the Chargers today. What the hell are you thinking?
Saleh could always kind of be at the mercy of his offensive coordinator, and that's a problem. But the other way I look at it is, the way I've said it is, I think Saleh is a head coach, and I think that Kyle Shanahan essentially isn't. So that's going to make Robert Saleh a better head coach. He's going to be at the mercy of his coordinators, but he has the temperament of a head coach. He is a people person. When his players come off the field, he greets them. He hugs them. Kyle Shanahan, I don't think likes being touched. I don't think he likes. I'm saying, like,
no, I think you're right.
Off the field, he's looking at his play sheet. That's fine. He's got his hat down low. He's very much dude, don't touch me, man. I think he'd feel more comfortable in the coach's booth than on the field, and that's fine. Maybe that's his domain. He's a great offensive coordinator, but I do believe that Robert Saleh is a head coach, and that Kyle Shanahan isn't yet. So I'm going with Saleh. I'm going with Saleh for his personality and basically for his temperament and personality.
Yeah.
And the way he deals with people.
That's why this defensive coordinator, whoever comes in as the defensive coordinator, it's going to be crucial. And I feel like DeMeco Ryans could be the saving grace because he has that Robert Saleh energy. He has experience playing the game. But if the defensive coordinator can't match Robert Saleh's success, we're going to find out a lot about Kyle Shanahan next year and the year after that, depending on how the defensive coordinator plays out.
To me, it feels like when Shanahan left Atlanta. I mean, everyone knew Atlanta was screwed. Like, you're keeping Dan Quinn, huh? Good luck. And I mean, no one's willing to go that far with the Niners right now. But to me, I'm feeling a little bit like, oh, you're letting Robert Saleh leave? I know you like Kyle Shanahan, but that's your best coach. And I know you can't. Like, what was Arthur Blank going to do in 2017? Fire Dan Quinn and promote Kyle Shanahan? No, you can't do that. But at the same time, it's like, how do I let this guy walk out the door? He's a superstar, and he's carrying my team. I mean, Kyle's very good, but the defense has carried this team for 2 years. I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe Jed York could call up Robert Saleh and be like, look, instead of taking the job with the Jets, there's $10 million, stay for one more year. There's no rule against it.
No.
There's no rule against it.
All the pressure's got to be on offense.
If they give you $10 million, you owe me 10%. That was my idea.
Your point earlier, Grant, about Saleh and needing to hire an offensive coordinator and that whole process, that's something I think Mav mentioned last week a little bit, and I heard that earlier in the day yesterday too from somebody, and it's true, and that's I think one of the biggest things that might hold him back with where he goes, or if we're not even for certain that he's going to get hired. I think he's going to, but if he doesn't get hired, that's going to be what it is teams wanting to have that security year after year of being able to build.
And when these owners bring Saleh in and interview him, they're not asking him about his defense. No. They're asking him about his offensive coordinator and his quarterback coach and his vision for the quarterback position. That's what it is.
They know he can do defense. Yeah.
Well, you got a good defense. Great. Let's talk about offense. Yeah. So that'll be interesting. But with Shanahan, let's talk about decision-making and leadership. Anyway.
That's why the 49ers, the only way they're saving grace next year, regardless of a poor defense, is trade for Deshaun Watson. And the first person that got a package is quality control coach Grant Cohn.
I'm what kind of a job?
You gave yourself an F. You devalued yourself. So there you go. So you gotta get going. You're detrimental to the team. You're a downfall. You should have done better. Sorry, man, but you and Jimmy failed us this season. All right.
In my one season as quality control coach, the Niners go 6-10. Coincidence? I think not.
By the way, turn in your jacket.
I know it's
Like,
This was a great show. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming on, for watching. We got like 1 billion hits because I put Deshaun Watson in the title. That was smart. Thanks for watching. I'm going to be back in an hour with a special guest, an OG from the Santa Rosa Press Democrat days, like Jackhammer was. This is Coffees for Closers. If you know him, you know him. If you don't, you don't. This guy is the best guy at scouting quarterbacks I've ever seen in the world. So we're going to talk to him in about an hour. Come back. See you then.